So return on equity, or ROE, which I'll introduce you in this video, is the most important topic out of this whole course. This is frankly the root of everything for creating Property Llama, for creating this course, for helping me scale from 1 door to 9 doors in a couple of years, for helping me help a lot of clients out there. This concept is key here. Now, I'm going to preface this with it took me about 6 to 9 months to really fully wrap my head around this concept. So I'm gonna give you some high level introductory concepts, and then we will keep building upon this as we go through future videos, but most importantly, plug in your portfolio or plug in your properties and actually look at the numbers on how it partakes to your portfolio. But it's a mind-boggling concept. I'm gonna walk you through my very first property on where I learned what return on equity is all about. So I bought my very first property, and looking back, it was a house hack. I bought the property to live in it, and I eventually turned it into a rental. Now, this was before I was an investor-friendly realtor and really into real estate. I just knew I needed to buy a place, and things were cheap back then. So it was a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom condo I bought in 2011 for $67,000. Now, during boom times, it was like $200,000 plus. And so I got for a great bargain. And so here's the kicker of it all. I was able to buy this property for 0% down. I had a wealthy private lender loan me money, 5%, over 15 years. So I bought this property 0% down. So I bought it right, and I was like, wow, I got a great deal. I bought it right. I'm just gonna pay off this property and enjoy the cash flow. Why would I ever sell? Well, here's the problem. I actually started doing the math, and this happened years and years and years later. So, fast forward like 5 years after I'd already bought the place, I moved out, I moved on with my life, I got married, I started getting into real estate investing, a lot more serious about understanding my portfolio, and I started really planning and setting goals and trying to figure out what I was doing. All the stuff we're talking about in this course here. And when I sat down and set my goal, I said I want to make $10,000 a month. So the first thing I did is I went back to my condo rental property. That was the only one I had at the point, and said, all right, well, once this condo is paid off, how close am I going to be to my goal? Well, once it's paid off, it would make about $700 a month with no mortgage, or about $8,500 a year. And I was like, oh, I mean, hey, I'll always take $8,500 a year. I'll always take that check every single year. But when I stopped and thought about it, I was like, oh, $8,500, like, man, I need a lot more condos. Actually, I need 14.2 more condos. And I was like, oh my gosh, how am I gonna get these? Because now these condos are, $150,000. My ability to get 0% down payments was gone. I was like, well, I'm gonna have like $1 million to go buy all these rental properties. So, I knew I was not the first person to have this realization that, oh, well, I need to buy more properties to go out there, increase cash flow. However, I don't have an endless supply of properties I can buy. I don't have endless capital, nor do I have endless time to invest to find amazing off-market deals by knocking on 1,000 doors a month. So what I did is I started dissecting what other more successful people did. And when I say dissected, I mean I dissected. I started interviewing, I started talking to people I could. I built spreadsheets. This when I became a full-time investor-friendly realtor. I started a podcast in Denver and got to interview all the top investors around town. I jumped into it and became a professional student. And this is where I started learning about return on equity, and it started cracking the code for me. So what is return on equity? I'm gonna come back and show you the same fraction I showed you in the previous video on cash flows and everything, where return on investment equals the 4 ways to make money in real estate divided by your total initial investment. Well, now, when it comes to return on equity looks very similar. So ROE is equal to the same thing, 4 ways to make money in real estate, but rather than looking at the money you put into the property, you look at your current equity position. Now I'm gonna flip over to Property Llama and show you what I was making on my initial investment. And it is just earth-shattering, it is jaw-dropping, and then you'll see what I'm making on my return on equity. So I've got a 1 property portfolio here in Property Llama, and this is my Reno condo. It's actually about the numbers when I sold the property back in either 2018 or 2019. When I sold the property, so I bought for $67,000, but it was now worth $230,000. So here is like the kicker of this. Look at this cash on cash return. I mean, it's cash on cash return literally like broke the system. Like I realized that I had to email the development team and say, hey guys, I put in such a crazy number, a crazy realistic number that it can't even display it. Like this is 355,000% return on my initial investment. And in reality, it's actually zero, or I should actually say it's actually infinity. Why infinity? Because I actually put zero down. Well, you can't do real math with a zero in the denominator. So what I did in Property Llama is I put $1 down, and by putting $1 down, I'm making 355,000% on that return on investment. Well, that sounds amazing, right? And that's why I was like, oh my gosh, these are amazing numbers. Then I go back to what I said, I need to buy 14.2 more condos to achieve my retirement goal. And I was like, okay, I'm confused here. I've got this amazing return on investment, but I'm not really making any money and no significant returns towards my financial goals. So this is where I'm going to click in the property and dive into return on equity. And again, don't worry about understanding every single detail. I just want to give a broad level concept, and we'll keep building upon this. And it'll take some time for you, and you'll understand it and get reality as well. So here is my Reno condo. I'm going down into the property detail of it. I'm going to zoom in. So you can see here the system is not able to display it in this view because it's such a crazy big number. Why is it such a crazy big number? Because I put a $1 down payment on there. I couldn't put zero into the system, but $1 down payment is a crazy return. Now, that was 2011. Now, fast forward to 2018 when I sold it. I was now making a 6.95% return on my equity. Whoa. This is where it starts getting like conceptually tough. I go from an infinite return, or a 500,000% return, down to a 7% return on equity. How does that happen? Well, got a couple things I want to show you here. So there's a big issue with using return on investment after you've owned the property for a while. Why? Well, because you're measuring money you're making today, and like in this year, so I'm taking money I made in 2018, but I'm dividing it by money I invested in 2011. So now I have mismatched time dates on my investment. So it's not a very accurate way. Well, plus now I have equity in the property as well, and there's an opportunity cost to it. So here is a really great way to visualize this. And this is a table I built. And you can see here return on investment, which is you stick with that initial investment you made. It goes up over time. You can see here in this middle column, it's going from 29 to 36 to 48 to 50. Why? Well, it's because I'm making more money every year by keep dividing it by my initial investment. Again, I can't use today's dollars and divide it by my investment from 10 years ago. It's just not an accurate way to do it. And this is where equity, this is what's so important. This is why it becomes the real way to measure it, because equity is real money you have in real estate. And that comes from price appreciation, you creating value, or you paying down debt. Now, what happens is equity gets bigger and your returns usually don't keep up. And you can see here, my return equity actually starts going down. Whoa, mindset shift here. We got some numbers going up, some numbers going down. What do we do? Well, I'm going to keep showing you in Property Llama and help bring you along this journey. So going back to Property Llama here, how return equity is calculated in the system is it's saying I got 6.95%. Well, it's saying in this year, I'm making about $13,500 total in this year from the 4 ways to make money in real estate: appreciation, debt pay down, cash flow, and depreciation. It's taking this number of $13,500 and dividing it by my equity net worth by about $193,000. So that gives me about a 6.95% return on my money. Now, when you click over here, these numbers are the same. And so think about this. I can say, hey, I'm making $13,500 this year, and this is in 2018, and I can divide that by $1 that I invested in 2011, or I can divide it by my equity in the property, which came from the market's appreciation mostly, and then me paying down the debt from like $67,000 to I think like $32,000 or $37,000. So I paid it down. No, my tenant paid down the debt. And you got to think about this. This equity in your property, that is cash in your real estate piggy bank. There is an opportunity cost to it. So should I stay fixated on that $1 I invested, 8 years prior? Or should I say, no, I've got $193,000 in this property. What can I do with it? And the equity is the accurate way to go out there and start saying, hey, this is my opportunity cost. Now, the equity in there, it takes some work to get out. There's some cost to it. It's not, like taking money out of the bank account, but it's still money. It's just illiquid in your real estate. All right, so I'm going to switch back over the slides here for a second, and I'm going to jump back to my Monopoly example. Now, I imagine you're like most people where you played Monopoly growing up, and I love that game. And even as an adult, I love the game, and I also hate the game because you start losing, and you guys know how that goes. But was a teacher, and this is how my mind was, and most people's minds are as well. Well, I'm going to go around the board, buy a greenhouse, and I'll go around, collect my $200, go around, collect my $200, buy another greenhouse. And then you repeat that, greenhouse, 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 then red hotel. And that is like the linear thought process. And that's the equivalent of me saying, hey, buy 1 condo, 2 condo, 3 condo, 4 condo. The problem there is just very tough to do and also takes a long time. And if I were to be following that plan, I would probably never achieve my financial freedom goals. And most people, like yourself included, might not either. So here's the trick I learned with return on equity and from all these mentors and investors who are way more successful and a much higher net worth than I did. You don't go in that linear thought process. You tap into the equity and go straight from a greenhouse to a red hotel. Now, I'm not going to show you all the math right now. Rather, I'm going to flip back over to Property Llama and actually show you what I did in real life. And so in Monopoly, imagine you skip houses 2, 3, and 4, and you just take your greenhouse and you're able to get a red hotel. Well, in my real life, I sold this condo and I bought a fourplex, and that's my red hotel. So I'm going to go into Property Llama here and just click these 3 dots and say Scenario 1031 Trade Up. If you don't know what 1031 is, don't worry about that too much right now. That's just a way to help use some of the tax advantages of real estate investing. So I'm going to plug in a few numbers here. Again, I'm not going to explain these numbers here. I want you to stay conceptual return on equity. But what I did here is I just kind of took Property Llama is taking my current price or my current numbers of this house, essentially like my equity in there, and saying, let's go sell the condo and let's go buy a bigger property. Let's go use that $193,000 you have in equity and use that as a down payment on a fourplex or a red hotel. So you can see here in terms of this graph, there's a couple parts of this page. The first part is this graph here, and it shows you the blue line, which is the new portfolio, and it shows you the yellow line, which is your current portfolio. And this is the cash flow, and there's different tabs on here you can go through and look at this. And it shows you how much faster you can get to your goal. Now, what is my goal and many people's common goals? It's $10,000 a month in real estate. So you can see here, this one trip won't get me to my goal of $120,000, but it gets me there a lot, or it moves the needle a lot more. Now, let's move down here to this next section, do a little comparison. And this is where I'm going to just do some high-level numbers. On the right was my current portfolio, or that one Reno condo that was making me about a 7% return equity, about $3,500 a year in cash flow, and then once it's paid off, about $7,800 a year in paid off cash flow. Well, now once I sell that and take that as a down payment on the fourplex, well, now my money goes from 7% to almost 26%. and I sold a $250,000 asset to get a $750,000 asset. My cash flow went from $3,500 to about $13,000, so that about tripled or 4x'd. But here is the most important thing. NOI, and I'll explain this next video, this is like your future cash flow for once the property is paid off with no debt. My condo is about $7,800, today, if I paid it off today. This fourplex I bought is $50,000. Now let that sink in. When you sit there and think about your financial situation today or in retirement down the road, what's the difference of $7,000 a year in passive income versus $50,000 a year? $50,000 is a huge, significant number. Now, while I want more, $50,000, I can get by on that. I can live on that. It makes a huge difference, right? And guess what? I brought no extra money to go from this greenhouse to a red hotel. I say no extra, I mean a few $1,000s, nothing significant. Now, here's what happened. That fourplex was like $200,000 in change. Well, the vast majority of that money came from the rental property. Where did I have $200,000 in cash sitting around? No, I did not. But I tapped into the equity or my real estate piggy bank to go out there and invest. So again, don't get too worried about the numbers here, but conceptually, look what this did. Now I went from making $13,000 a year in gross returns to about $50,000 a year. Went from a 7% return to like a 26% return. And my future retirement cash flow went from about $8,000 to $50,000. I mean, that is what, a 5x or so like increase? Like, it is insane. Now, I know a lot of this, you're probably getting the high level of this. That's fine. That's all I want. Don't worry about every detail on here. I just wanted to get you introduced and your head wrapped around this return on equity or ROE concept. Because as we move forward, I'm gonna keep referencing this, and the next couple of videos, I'll go into more and more details on here. Now, at this point, I highly recommend, if you have rental properties, make sure they're plugged into Property Llama or start plugging them in here, and you can start playing around with it, and also come work with your real estate coach and have him or her help start playing with these concepts. Because what I wanna do is teach you these concepts in these videos, have you start understanding starting getting your numbers in the system, and have you start playing around with it for what you're doing and also work with your real estate coach. All right, I hope you enjoyed this ROE concept. Like I said, it changed my life, it changed my investing, it changed what I did for business, and this is truly the genesis for where Property Llama all started, was how to understand and reinvest return on equity.